An empire that conquered 2,000 worlds in 50,000 years made exactly one mistake in its entire history. It arrived at a small blue planet called Earth, expecting an easy conquest. It got the opposite. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why nothing in this galaxy was ever the same again. The galaxy had rules. Every species learned them early, burned into their survival instinct by millions of years of evolution. Rule 1. When the Credack Dominion arrives in your system, you surrender. Not because surrender guarantees survival, because resistance guarantees extinction. The Credack were older than most stellar civilizations, 2,000 worlds under their control, fleets that could crack a planet like an egg, 50,000 years of conquest, and in all that time, not one species had ever made them bleed. Not one. Until Earth. Commander Vale stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Endless Victory, watching a blue-green world turn lazily on his view screen. His 4 eyes narrowed with something close to boredom. Another primitive planet. Another easy win. His scouts said humans had barely cracked faster than light travel. Outdated weapons. A civilization still split into competing nations, still fighting each other over borders and resources like children arguing over toys. 3 days, he thought. Maybe 4. He had no idea he was about to make the worst mistake of his career. The kind of mistake that gets your name erased from history books, if history books even survive what's coming. Vale opened a channel on every frequency Earth used. His translator would broadcast in every human language at once, the same speech he'd given 100 times to 100 other species right before they knelt. "Humans of Earth," he said, voice heavy with inevitability. "You have been selected for integration into the Credack Dominion. Resistance is extinction. Surrender is survival. You have 12 hours to transmit your unconditional capitulation." He turned to his tactical officer. "Deploy orbital platforms. Standard suppression pattern. 1,000 automated weapons platforms spread across Earth's orbit like a metal disease." He expected panic, screaming diplomats, maybe a token military response his shields would swallow without even noticing. Instead, he got something far worse. Nothing. 11 hours and 57 minutes of complete silence. Cities kept running. No military mobilized. No emergency broadcasts. No panicked calls to allies who didn't even exist yet. Humanity just continued. As if the most powerful empire in the galaxy hadn't just given them an ultimatum. As if 1,000 weapons platforms weren't already sitting in their sky. That silence should have scared him more than any weapon pointed at his ship. It didn't. Not yet. But it would. Then, with 3 minutes on the clock, one transmission came through. Calm. Almost friendly. "Commander Vale, this is Secretary General Martinez of the United Earth Government. We've reviewed your offer. Our answer is no." Vale's secondary heart started racing with a feeling he hadn't had in decades. Confusion. "You should also know your orbital platforms just stopped working," Martinez continued. "We've been inside your system since you entered our solar system. Your weapons won't fire. Your shields are at 30% and dropping. Your engines shut down in 40 seconds. The bridge exploded into chaos. Alarms screaming in a language of pure panic, red lights bathing every terminal, officers hammering dead controls that refused to answer, shields peeling away like skin off a corpse, engines that could push a dreadnought to .9 light speed, dying one by one no matter how many override codes he threw at them. "How?" Vale demanded. "Our security is quantum-encrypted, physically isolated. built by our greatest minds. "Commander," Martinez said, still calm, "we've been hacking each other for 300 years. Criminal networks, teenagers breaking government servers for fun. When your scouts showed up 6 months ago, our best people never stopped working. Your encryption was impressive, but you made one mistake. You assumed we were primitives." The endless victory went dark. At the exact same moment, 50 other Credack warships suffered the exact same failure. "Here's what happens now," Martinez said, and now steel replaced the friendliness. "You sit quietly while we board. You tell us everything about your dominion, every world, every weapon, every enslaved species. Then we take your ships apart, piece by piece, and build something better. Because that's what humans do. We learn. We adapt. We never stop." Vale sank into his chair, ice water in his veins. 50,000 years of conquest, and the Credack had finally found a species that didn't win through strength or numbers, but through pure, stubborn, relentless ingenuity. Small human ships drifted through the wreckage of his fleet outside the window, moving like this was routine work on a Tuesday. The galaxy's rules had just changed forever. But this was only the first mistake. The one that came 3 months later would be so much worse. The Credack High Council convened an emergency session for the first time in 4,000 years. A sphere of black obsidian floating above the capital world, where 12 supreme archons decided the fate of trillions with a single vote. They'd met here for plagues that wiped out colonies, for rebellions that burned entire provinces, for wars between species that lasted centuries, never for one lost fleet. Until now. And what they were about to hear would leave every archon in that chamber wishing they'd never called the session at all. Archon Feldris, veteran of 800 campaigns, stood at the center, his hologram flickering with barely restrained fury. "Explain to me," he said, dangerously quiet, "how 50 warships, 3 of them dreadnoughts, simply vanished." Kellex, the intelligence director, projected the data with visibly trembling appendages. "My Archon, the humans didn't destroy our ships. They captured them. All of them. Some form of electronic warfare we've never encountered. Every system shut down at once, across 50 ships simultaneously, like flipping a switch. No casualties on either side. They took everything. Ships, weapons, data cores, crew alive and unharmed." Archon Maressa laughed, bitter and sharp. "Impossible. Our systems are quantum-encrypted, 5-layer redundant. Not even the Xylo Collective has broken them." Kellex's display changed. Grainy satellite footage. Human technicians swarming a Credack dreadnought like insects on a carcass, cutting hulls open with terrifying speed. They didn't just get in, Archon Maressa. They understood everything. Within days, reverse engineering. Within weeks, improving it. Lighter, faster, more efficient than we ever built it. Silence swallowed the sphere. 50,000 years of superiority, and being out-engineered by primitives was almost unthinkable. What came next was worse. "Then we glass their world," Feldris said, voice heavy. "The 5th Armada, 200 ships. Earth becomes molten slag before this spreads." Kellex's appendage shook. "My Archon, we already tried. 17 days ago. They arrived yesterday. They lasted 4 hours." The display shifted to debris fields where proud Credack warships once flew. Retrofitted human ships met them. Our weapons couldn't even track their fighters. And they had something new, kinetic platforms firing at 98% light speed. One hit, one battlecruiser gone. We retreated at 40% losses. The chamber erupted, shouting, demands. How? How does a species they called primitive destroy an armada in 4 hours? The answer came from the one Archon who hadn't said a word all session, and it would terrify them more than the footage did. General Curvax, Feldris said, you've studied their history. Tell us what we're facing. Curvax stepped forward, 30 conquered worlds behind him, a legend in Credack tactics. But his voice now carried something new, fear. We are not facing a typical species. Most, threatened with extinction, either surrender or fight one final battle. Humans do neither. They adapt, constantly. Every war in their history follows the same pattern. They start losing, they learn, they build something new, then they win. Images flooded the sphere. Knights adapting to gunpowder within a generation. Biplanes becoming supersonic jets within decades. Peaceful atomic research becoming the deadliest weapon their species ever built, almost by accident. They call it innovation. It's survival instinct, weaponized. We handed them technology that would have taken them centuries to build alone, and they're already improving on it. We accelerated their development by 1,000 years, and we did it by attacking first, by handing our worst enemy the exact blueprint of our own destruction. Maressa slammed her podium. Then what? We surrender to primitives? Curvax met her eyes. I suggest we negotiate before they come to us, because they will. Humans don't just defend. Once they decide you're an enemy, they don't stop until you're not a threat anymore. Right now, we're the biggest threat in their galaxy. As if summoned by his own warning, alarms tore through the chamber. Archons, multiple FTL signatures, modified Credack dreadnoughts, human energy signatures. Feldris felt his blood freeze. How many? 112, my Archon. They want to talk to whoever's in charge. A calm female voice filled the chamber, speaking flawless Credack. Attention, Credack High Council. This is Admiral Chen. You tried to conquer us. Failed. You tried to destroy us. Failed again. Now we're at your doorstep, flying a fleet built from your own technology. Improved. Here's the deal. Leave humanity alone. Free every enslaved species. Dismantle your empire peacefully, or we dismantle it for you. 12 hours. And before you think about fighting, remember, we scrapped your dreadnoughts in 4 hours. Imagine what we do to your home world. Silence. 12 Archons, rulers of an empire older than most civilizations, realizing everything had just ended. Prepare a diplomatic response, Feldris finally said, and find out if anyone here still remembers how to surrender. The treaty was signed 6 hours later, not out of cowardice, but because Feldris knew inevitable defeat when he saw it. The Credack didn't just withdraw. They agreed to end all conquest, free 417 enslaved species, and hand over full military transparency. But Admiral Chen's final demand was the one that revealed what humans actually wanted, and it wasn't what anyone expected. We want your historical records, every conquered species, every war, every mistake. We're going to learn from all of it. Feldris agreed instantly, because he understood something most species take decades to learn. Humans didn't just want victory, they wanted knowledge. And in human hands, knowledge was more dangerous than any weapon the Credack had ever built. 2 years later, the galaxy looked nothing like it used to. The Credack Confederation, that's what it was called now, had become humanity's partner in rebuilding galactic order. Dozens of freed species walking free for the first time in centuries. Human advisors everywhere, in every corner of former Credack space, teaching the one thing humans did better than anyone: adapt, improve, and never stop asking what could be better. Commander Vale, no longer a commander of anything, sat in a Geneva coffee shop, waiting. 2 years of debriefings behind him. He'd expected execution. Instead, humans offered him something he never saw coming. Martinez walked in, handed him a cup. "Commander, or Ambassador Vale, if you accept." "Ambassador to where? I'm a war criminal by my own people's standards." "The Galactic Council, 30 species and growing. We need someone who knows how empires fail from the inside. You conquered 100 worlds, Vale. That makes you valuable." Vale studied him. "Why me? I would have enslaved your species without hesitation. Because grudges are expensive, and we've got bigger problems." Martinez slid a datapad across the table. Every empire in galactic history follows the same cycle: rise, conquer, collapse, repeat. The Credack did it, the Xylo before them. We want to break that cycle, but not by pretending the past didn't happen. We need people who understand exactly what went wrong. Vale stared at the pad. Ambitious, possibly insane, so typically human he almost laughed. "And if I refuse?" "Then you stay here, comfortable, useless, while history happens without you." Martinez paused at the door. "You know what they're calling us out there? Bridge builders. Some think we're naive. Some think we're brilliant. I think we're just practical. Friendship is cheaper than war." He left. Vale sat alone watching Geneva outside the window. Humans and aliens sharing sidewalks that had been enemy lines 2 years earlier. Chaotic. Improbable. Somehow working. He looked at the council structure on the datapad again. No emperor. No single authority to corrupt. Just every species, voting, humans mediating, and enforcing when it mattered. Safeguards built from studying every empire's failure before it. And that's when it hit him. A realization that made his secondary heart sink with something between awe and dread. Humanity hadn't just beaten the Credack Dominion. They'd made empires obsolete. Proven there was a better way to run a galaxy. No conquest required, no fear needed to hold 1,000 worlds in line. And they'd done it not with bigger weapons, but with something far more dangerous. Ideas. Vale stood, left his coffee untouched, and walked out into the Geneva afternoon. He'd accept the position, not because he believed in human idealism, because he recognized a turning point in history when he saw one. Empires were over. Cooperation was starting. And these strange, adaptable primates from a backwater world were about to be at the center of everything that came next. Above the city, human and Credack ships patrolled together, protecting a planet once marked for conquest, now the capital of a new order. The Credack had come to Earth looking for primitives to add to a 50,000-year list of easy conquests. They found something else instead. A species that turns every attack into an upgrade, every enemy into a lesson, every ending into a beginning. They found the future, and the future was unbreakable.